Firstly, Count Corley, I think the Taoiseach should be here today instead of at a press conference, given the decisions that have been made and the impact that they have in our country. Minister, what you've announced earlier as a decision from Cabinet in relation to reopening is absolutely bananas. It's discriminatory, it's unenforceable, it's actually shocking stuff. Amateur hour. When did government discrimination become the norm in Ireland? I'd like you to answer that. Because what you're saying to young people today is, we're all in this together, except when it gets to a stage where those of us who have been vaccinated want to get out and enjoy ourselves this summer. That's what we're really saying. Oh, and by the way, we also want you to continue working to serve us in the bars and restaurants and pubs and everywhere else, because we need you to do so, even though you're not vaccinated. And by the way, public health covers this. Shocking stuff. What you're saying is that I can go in and get a meal down the street in a restaurant or go for a pint. My colleague here, Duncan Smith, sitting behind me, can't. I have to leave him outside the door. That's discrimination. That's wrong. And in Ireland, we don't practice discrimination. Certainly, governments shouldn't be pushing it, which is effectively what you're doing. And I think you're going to learn a big political lesson over the coming days and weeks. No, I'll rephrase that. Over the coming seconds, minutes, hours in relation to this decision. And you're going to have to rescind it. It's not practical. It's unenforceable. And it's discriminatory. Your plans will break social cohesion. They'll divide the people of this country, the communities, families, employees and employers, turning them into situations which we never wanted. So, Minister, I think you're really going to have to go and look at this again. You're saying to young people it's illegal for you to go down the road for a pint if you're not vaccinated. You can't go for a meal in a restaurant. But it's not illegal, because of European law, to go up to Northern Ireland or get in a flight to Spain and go in for as many meals or as many drinks as you want. Again, not practical, but most of all, discriminatory. And I really think what you need to do is go back and look at this again immediately. Call another cabinet meeting. Look at another proposal, because what you're proposing here is the following. You're saying to the young people of Ireland, you're saying, we are going to go out and enjoy ourselves if we are vaccinated, but we're not allowing ye to. We're essentially saying to the young people of Ireland, your summer will consist of sitting at home and watching Love Island, because that's what we think of you. We're no longer in this together.
Minister.
Firstly, Count Corley, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, the only reason the Taoiseach is not here is he's addressing the UN Security Council. It was a pre-arranged appointment. It's on the issue of cybersecurity, which is of absolute critical importance to our health system and the hundreds of thousands of health workers who have been through a crisis that they've had to manage, and that's why he's not here.
He's accountable to this Dáil.
It's absolute.
First and foremost, read the Constitution.
He is, and we as a government will be fully accountable to this Dáil, and included in that, we'll make sure that there's full access to NEFIT, not just the analysis, but also to the individuals behind the analysis which was presented to us last night, so that you too have an opportunity to ask the questions or to actually test out what is a very worrying development and situation with regard to this new Delta variant. But I have to say this, one thing, let's be very clear here. Let's not to preempt the approach that's going to be taken. Because what government is not doing is responding to that modelling information that was presented last night and immediately jumping to a particular solution. We're saying we want to sit down with our stakeholders, with the unions, with the industry, and to look at options in which we can provide better protection, but also reopen the hospitality sector and other sectors which may be affected. And for those young people as well, the decisions yesterday in terms of changing the vaccination rules was also an important element in the mix. It was not all negative in terms of what was presented and what it may provide, subject to international vaccine supply coming in. So to depict it all as having been decided, when actually, to be honest, and a correct response, because it was only last night that this latest modelling information was presented, the appropriate approach was not to jump to a conclusion or to immediately offer a solution. It was to say, we need now to establish a plan which actually gives us a a certain path to a reopening which will not see opening and then closing again. Because that's what we have done successfully, we as a people have done successfully in this country in the recent months, is we've managed to reopen sections of our society stage by stage in a way that didn't have to be reversed. And that, I think, is the first thing that our young people want, whether they be working in an establishment or a patron in an establishment, or part of a family business, or part of the cultural or sporting or other events which could also be affected. So there is no discrimination in the intent behind the government, but we did have to listen to the analysis that the health officials are presented. And your party, Deputy Kelly, right through this crisis, I could go back a number of months, were saying in the most categoric terms that we had to heed the public information advice. In government, you do have to heed. Now, there is a range of modelling scenarios that were presented to us. It's not all potentially unmanageable. In fact, it will be manageable. We are good at managing this as a country, and we will do this. But the way to do it is not close your eyes, block your ears, and just say none of that modelling exists. It is actually to consider the options, which is what we will do in the coming days.
Deputy Kelly.
That's not what your Taoiseach said in the press conference. I live in a place called Portchode, there's a little village called Gary Kennedy. Roy Breen and Maura Boyle run the two establishments there for hospitality. And if you think that what you are putting forward is enforceable in any of these types of hospitality premises, it is not. It's just not enforceable. And it's discrimination. It's complete discrimination. I'm telling you right now, the reaction from people who are under 30s is something I've never seen before. They are shocked at this, that the government has decided now to just jettison them. Oh, but you still have to continue working, even if you're not vaccinated. You often challenge opposition to have other solutions. I am asking you to revisit this, to reverse that part of the decision. We have Janssen vaccine out there that can be administered by pharmacists tomorrow morning. AstraZeneca vaccine that can go in to all the various different centres around the country. We will have in 2 weeks' time 50% with double vaccination, 70% with one shot. If we also use those other vaccines immediately, we can get that to above 55 and above 75. And in 2 weeks' time, before July 19th, then you look at the modelling again and reassess. That is what I believe is a compromise and what we should do, while also bearing in mind the public health advice. What you're proposing now is not possible. It is unenforceable. It's discriminatory and it's breaking social cohesion.
Mr. Ryan.
I wish for such certainty. I wish for such certainty, first of all, in terms of vaccine supply. Yes, we have, NIAC, following their advice, have changed the rules to allow our young people to get access to vaccines much more quickly. But there is no...
I'm not making those figures up.
It is not certain yet, and we will have to test in the coming days where we seek to set out the solutions involving the industry, involving the unions. There isn't, you say that, oh, this will not work, when the plan itself is what we have to devise and develop. And do that in a way that, yes, recognises that our young people have, in my mind, suffered most during this crisis and are in need of greatest support and our most urgent care and issue in terms of getting vaccinated and giving a social life and giving opportunities to get back to normal, to work and to college. But what we don't want is kind of false promises where we say everything is fine, sure, Delta doesn't exist, it's not a problem, we can ignore what NEFIT say, we're not worried about the modelling, and we find ourselves in greater difficulties later in the summer. Well, that is one of the possibilities if we were to ignore the advice that is given, and that's not what we're going to do.
Thank you very much.